All right, so most of y'all, make sure you get logged into Canvas, open up your assignment 3 plan again. And that should be everything you need to get prepped and started. Go ahead and open up Photoshop as well to make sure that your account is like signed in. Sometimes you have to sign in for that one. So you should have AutoCAD with your plan open, Photoshop open, and make sure you have Canvas logged in and open as well to the assignment or to the exercise. I'm going to go over some housekeeping type of stuff. Today, we're going to go over how to put a plan, get it out of AutoCAD and put it into Photoshop in like a really nice, clean way so that you're able to render plans that come out of Photoshop and what the prep looks like from AutoCAD. And then we are primarily going to focus on, instead of you having an assignment this time, the work time is going to be focused on going through and reviewing the red lines. So the comments that we gave you on, those were given to you last night and uploaded for your plan assignment. So all the comments that you have, which there's a crap ton on all of yours. So if you opened it, we're like, holy crap, there's a lot of comments. All of yours have a lot. They're for all the little nitty gritty things. And it's a really common method of, like in an office, this is what happens when you hand it over to your project manager and they want to circle and scribble on things. So don't be intimidated by them. A lot of them are quick fixes, but we will be spending that time letting y'all work on that so that you can gain those points back the same way as your other stuff. And learning, you can learn just as much from fixing mistakes as drawing things from scratch. So that's what we're going to be doing. So in CAD, we're going to go over a couple of like helpful commands that will help you manage and edit and fix little things, as well as help you prep for the Photoshop part. And we're also going to try and go over a couple of commands that maybe we've noticed there were continual little mistakes or things that happened that a lot of y'all didn't pick up or understand. So go over a couple of those little things again, just to make sure they're actually honed in and you understand those commands. Make sure that whenever we're probably going to do office hours again, we'll send out the link for Calendly for the week, that if you do have questions on the stuff or need help with any of these things, you can reach out. Make sure that you respect the time of Jess and I when you schedule something. Make sure you show up for it, show up on time. Even if you cancel something, if it's an hour before, that's the same as if you had to call us up and say, hey, like I'm canceling an hour before. Y'all think that because it's digital, like, and you don't have to see us, you can just cancel it. And it kind of sucks for us when we plan our days around making sure we can help y'all. So be respectful of those. We want to help you out, but make sure you're respectful of our time. And yeah, so I'm going to go through a couple of quick little things to help y'all out that we've noticed that have been issues. So blocks. A lot of you have been doing groups instead of blocks. And then there's a couple little things that a lot of you have been doing when you make blocks that could improve to make a better block. So for making groups are just simply stuffing things together. It doesn't do you any good to take everything on a single layer and group them. Because it's really easy, which I'm going to be showing you today, how to isolate things on a layer. So if I just want to look at pavement things, I can separate all the lines of pavement. So why would I need all of these lines to be grouped? It doesn't benefit anybody. So don't use groups for whenever you're selecting a bunch of things on one layer. Things that are useful for groups are things like section lines and those things that have a lot of little components that you want to keep together. But each of those things are unique. Versus a block you want to use when you're using the same thing over and over again, because you want to make sure that you never have to copy something 20 times and then have to do it again because you had to edit one thing. So if I make a quick symbol, I'm just going to do this really quick. Another habit that I've noticed is a lot of you manually change properties of your hatches or your line work. Do not change I gotta move these controls because I can't see. Do not change the color of any hatch or line work up here unless asked to do so. All of your properties for all of your features should say by layer. It is effective for using the CTB plot style, that all of them are like that. So when I select something and I go to my properties, absolutely everything should say by layer. Do not go and change them over here. You have to change it in your layers properties, and then you must make that item go on your layer, on the layer that is set to the way you want it to be, to follow those things. So make sure that you place them on the right layer so they follow those properties. Do not go manually changing those things. If I open the properties, it also says it there as well. Don't go changing those things. Okay, so to make a block, you select everything. The part that a lot of you are missing is when you make that block, you don't select specify on screen for base point. So this box is what's really important. If I don't select this and I make this, and I'm going to redefine the block again. Let me make it a new name. Hold on. New tree. You'll notice when I select it, if you see the little blue grip down at, I don't know where the best spot to hide this bar is. This little blue grip down on the far left, that is now the grip point that you technically can move your item with, which doesn't do you a whole lot of good being it clear at the origin. It defaults to the origin. So if you don't make your object down with the center point sitting in the origin, then it will put that grip all the way away from whatever your object is. So what you should do rather, so if I want to start over, I just explode, or you can undo that block so it's back to its original line work. I'm going to select it, block, specify on screen is the key part. So I'm going to save over the one. I need to make sure that the base point says specify on screen. Yes, I want to redefine it. Now, if you look, it says specify insertion point. Make sure that you select the center of this tree. That's the most efficient spot for a tree symbol, would be the center of it. I select it. Now, if I click this, the grip point is in the middle. So now if I'd like to move this, I don't have to use the move command or randomly place it. I can grab it and place it very strategically and with precision. Okay. So blocks, the purpose of those, and a lot of you also copied, you would make like 3 different sizes of trees and block each of those. There's no need to do that. Every one of these blocks is the same tree, so that if I were to edit one of them, because we didn't make them different symbols, you could have if you wanted to. But if I needed to change the size or the symbol of this tree and I wanted to make it look different, the purpose of the block is that when I edit this, it's now made all of those trees look different. If you make each of them a different block, then you would have to go change each and every one of those blocks, which is defeats the purpose of using a block. The block lets it be, you do it once and you're done. You can scale blocks, which is how each of these are different sizes. So once you make one block, then you copy it, you make it smaller and you move it around, you copy it, you place it wherever you need. Don't make a lot of them, and make sure you put a grip in the center of them to make them worthwhile. The next thing, I'm gonna undo that real quick. So the next thing is, a lot of you had some issues with like the precision of your line work or the accuracy and how like clean you've drawn things. And a lot of you spent probably more time drawing things than you might have wanted to. And one of the things is you kind of need to think through like what's the most efficient way to look at things. A lot of y'all narrowed in and you drew, I'm gonna relink this real quick. It'll let me. Scaled it since, great. So a lot of you would zoom into certain spots and you would just start drawing and you would just go and drag and click and click and click. It's a lot easier if you look at it as a whole. If you notice, like, you notice this line cuts through a lot of this stuff, right? If you notice the line is parallel and even with a whole bunch of spots on here, why not draw one line and then trim that line once you've drawn other ones, rather than drawing a bunch of independent ones that likely don't line up with each other, don't line up with its friends along the way, because you've got these pavement joints that go across, and then those are all in line with each other. Instead, you're opening yourself up to more errors, more issues. If you had one line, you can break those up and you can draw one, you can use all different commands, trim, extend, things like that to make it more, you know, clean and quicker. It's a lot faster for you. And then I'm going to go over draw order. Some of you this might be helpful. Sometimes it might not. If you drew more than one line on top of each other to make boundaries for like planting versus pavement, you can select things and you can say right click, draw order, and send to back or front. This is the same as Photoshop and a bunch of other programs that you use, so that it changes the order of operation. So if you've got a bunch of things stacked on top of each other, say your hatches are on top of things that you don't want it to be and it looks really muddy, select those things and send them to the back so that you can see what you're doing. This will help when you start editing these as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the exercise stuff, and then I'll get more into the nitty gritty of your assignment feedback and that kind of stuff. Okay, so for importing into Photoshop, you're going to go through the same process with plotting that you did before. But the key is that you turn on and off certain things. And then also ideally, you're going to use a different plot style. You want to make it to where this line work is as thin as humanly possible when it goes into Photoshop. That way it's just outlines and barriers that you can use to like you can dump like paint bucket and dump into things. How much familiarity does everyone have with Photoshop? Have you had to use it a little bit? Got something? That's all that matters. You got a little bit of something going. That's all that matters. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to load the canvas plot style that you've been given. You've been given a new one. So this one's called Fine Line on exercise 5. So make sure you download that Fine Line CTB file. And the same way that we did before, we're going to load this one in. And a lot of you had a little bit of issues with that, so we'll do it more than once. It doesn't matter if you are in paper space or model space to load this in. And you're going to use the command Styles Manager, and that's what opens up the File Explorer that tells you where everything is. So I'm going to go to my downloads, and I'm going to copy the Fine Line CTB, Control C. I'm going to close that window, and I'm going to go look at my plot styles window that came from typing in Styles Manager. I'm going to click in here and do Control V. And it pastes Fine Line into the plot styles. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time. So it doesn't matter if you're in paper space or model space, you type in Styles Manager, and it will open the File Explorer. You're going to copy the file that you just downloaded, and you're going to paste it into this folder. Okay. All of the all of the colors. So normally your colors have different meanings, right? They're different thicknesses. In this one, they're all the same, thin and black, to make it easy for outlines and stuff like that. Okay. Is everyone good loading in their plot style? No. Okay, I'll give you a second. I'll go through it again just to help you out if anyone's stuck. So Styles Manager, command, enter. I'm gonna go to my downloads, copy Fine Line, copy the file Fine Line, close it. Then I'm gonna go over to where the File Explorer that opened from CAD, and I'm gonna click in here and Control V for paste. So that Fine Line is just sitting in the File Explorer that it opened. That's all it is. So this is that feature that shows up whenever you plot this down here. It should now have Fine Line in it. And we'll get to that in a second for prepping it. Is everyone good? No? Yes? We're good here. Okay. Anyone in here? Good? Okay. Okay. So once you have that loaded, now you have to make sure that your layout is whatever you intended to be. So we're going to work with our 11 by 17 that you've got set up from the last exercise. So make sure that you've got last exercise's layout open, good to go. If you didn't already, go check your assignment submissions for your exercise 4. Okay, so those should be set. We're going to check them. What command do we use to check our page setup stuff? So plot is for your single use. But if you want to set up for every single time what your default plotting settings are, what do you type? Page setup. Yep. I gave you the answer in my question. So page setup, we're going to just click modify for right now. So if you look, it says DWG PDF. A couple of you did not choose that for your section assignment. I've skimmed through those. Make sure you choose DWG to PDF. It's the best, the easiest, and the least problematic, and normally makes it the smallest file. 11:17, full bleed. And then we can go ahead and change this plot style to fine line for right now so that we don't have to keep doing it repeatedly every time we plot something. Okay, so fine line is what we're going to change it to. Okay. So, okay, after you're done with that, so it should look like this. The only thing you should be changing is the plot style. It should say DWG PDF for printer, and page size is your ANSI B full bleed 11:17. It's portrait. Okay, good. Why not? Great. It's okay. And then we just close. So the next thing that you go through is you're going to freeze and thaw different layers so that you have the outlines. So if you've got, some of you have ran into this issue where when you place hatches, you leave everything turned on and it makes it to where you have to click a lot of times to fill in these little gaps. Rather, it's more efficient that if you turn off, I'm going to go to my model space real quick. If you turn off layers and ignore my layer names because I did not make them pretty. So if you start turning off different layers like trees, for instance, trees are something that are the overhead and they impact that ground plane that you want to place a hatch. So this would also impact if you want to use a paint bucket on Photoshop to fill a whole area. You don't want the trees to impact the ground plane stuff. The section lines, for instance, those could also be turned off. And text, a lot of you did not turn off any of those things. So then you had to click 20 different times just to get an area filled with a hatch. And it just makes for a really big file whenever you start doing that stuff too. So an efficient way of turning things on and off is up here, you've got all of the same, they've got the same icons as what sits in your layer property. You've got that sunshine, you've got a snowflake, the on and off, and then this one's a little bit different than those. These are a little bit more efficient than opening up your layers properties. If you use these little buttons, I prefer these buttons over like commands, but they each have a command as well. They're kind of intuitive for the most part. So the freezing and the turning on and off, those are pretty much the same. I default to using freezing because it makes your file run faster. So if you click the one with the snowflake, if you click a single line from a single layer on your plan, it will turn off whatever that layer's is everything on that layer. It'll go ahead and say, hey, you selected something on the tree layer, I'm turning off all the trees. Hey, you selected something on this layer, I'm turning off everything on that layer. So if you check your layers properties, then you'll see there's a new snowflake for each of those things. This little zoom thing is really driving me nuts. So same thing applies. So anytime you click any of these things, it will freeze anything that is on the same layer. This is why layer management is really nice and helpful, is if everything I click, it will freeze all of that layer. The same thing goes for unfreezing things as well. The sunshine one thaws everything. So it says, hey, anything that's frozen, unfreeze it. Okay, so it makes it really fast and quick. So this one is lay freeze is the command. You don't have to use it. I never do. And then lay thaw is for that one. The on and off light bulb one works the exact same. Both of those function like that. So for plotting, for Photoshop, we're going to turn off everything that's not on like the ground plane, basically. So you're going to use your freeze and click your section lines, your trees, and you can go ahead and turn off your hatches as well, just so those aren't muddying anything or making it muddled, because you'll probably want to put your own pattern and that kind of stuff. Also, do not gauge whatever colors my stuff are. I was doing this to gauge what color to suggest for you guys. I did not make it right after I suggested it for your assignment. So don't gauge things entirely off of what mine looks like right now. So generally, you should have just that, basically. This should be what it should look like. You could probably turn off your property line too, but I'm going to leave that one on for right now. Okay. So this is what it should look like. Freeze everything except that. Let's do. So then once you've got that, You also want to grab, what's another thing that's on the, like the overhead? What's something that would impact what the ground plane looks like that would be in the way? And a lot of you probably had to deal with it. Do we know that what that thing's called? So pergola, me and Jess have been debating on whether or not it's a trellis pergola or arbor. It's been a fun, enlightening Google search. So we're gonna freeze that as well, because that's gonna be in the way and it's annoying. You could probably turn off your furniture as well, because that's something that's impacting that ground plane. Like if you wanted to color all the ground, if it's gonna be in the way, it should probably be turned off. So furniture. And this is where it's very helpful to have things on the right layers. If you don't, it's totally fine. This is the same as last exercise. The point is that you learn how to plot this right, get it in a Photoshop and learn how to mess with it, not that your lines are correct in the first place. Yeah.
What about fencing? Because there's those black or the blocks around.
Yeah, so some of you drew those by scratch and you've gotten notes for drawing those by scratch. You can go ahead and leave those on for right now. It's not too big of a deal. Okay. So we're going to leave those on. These are going to be the ones we got. So I'm going to go into paper space and it is so difficult to see. Okay, so once you have those, you go into your paper space. We're going to do plot. We're going to check again to make sure our plot style is fine line. Our printer is DWG to PDF, and we have an 11x17 full bleed and a side portrait. Great. Once we've done that, we're going to say, okay, you're going to save this, find a nice spot for it to go. I can never find a nice spot in this computer because there's too many servers. And you're going to save this as like, maybe call it EX5 base or something like that. This is going to be the base, the ground plane, the thing that you'll fill in the most. So base. Okay, enter. So just EX5 base. Doesn't really matter what it's called. I'm not too concerned about that part, but it's helpful to make sure that they're named nice things so that you can come back to them. Okay, so if you zoom in to these exports, you'll see they all have the same line weight except for the solid filled hatch on here. So you'll see everything is generally thin, nothing's thicker. Jess, are you there? Yes. Yeah, yep. We're gonna have to do it repeatedly as well to get all the other line work that we turned off. So you've got the base. So you make sure that you go in here and you're gonna freeze the things that you need. So hopefully that's the part that you've already gotten done. And you'll go and use either your snowflake or your light bulb. Turn off everything that you don't need. You'll go to your paper space and you type plot, enter, check these, just push OK and save it as EX5 base. Okay. And it'll be pretty easy to, if you're behind, but for any reason, we're going to do the exact same thing. But with like trees and furniture and all the other pieces that we turned off, we're going to turn those on their own. So if we do the sunshine and turn it all back on, or if you use the light bulb, turn everything back on. So now we're going to just do trees. So the next command that we're going to show you is this in between one here. It's lay ISO, lay isolate, layer isolate. Yeah.
I can't get my trees frozen.
Okay. It's because, oh, that's, you can't freeze layers if you are currently on that layer. So right now, if you look at the top, mine is on L wall, so I can't freeze those layers. If I tried to freeze a wall, it would yell at me down at the bottom and it doesn't like let me do it. So if you see cannot freeze layer L wall, it's current layer. So all you need to do is go up to the top and if this bar will go away. Go up to the top and choose layer 0 or something like that. Something you know you're not gonna be turning on and off. And then I can freeze it now. So go in, click, and it'll freeze. Okay. So the next thing we're gonna do is the layer isolate. Does that help? You good now?
Yeah.
Sweet. So layer isolate does something similar, but it does backwards. Instead of freezing the thing you select, it's going to be the only thing that it keeps turned on. We need to set the layer isolate settings so that they don't suck because they do this really annoying lock feature as the default. So we're going to type lay ISO which is the layer isolate command, and you can see it has the same symbol as the button at the top. Okay. And we're going to change the settings down here. So click S, enter, or click this. You want to make sure that instead of lock and fade, it's set to off. So it just turns off the layers rather than locking the layers and fading them. So just type O, enter, or click off. Okay. And then for the next feature, we're going to do off again. Okay. Off, off for both of those things. Great. Now you're still in the lay ISO command. It's so, like I said, it does the opposite of freezing. Whatever thing you select. So if I want just the trees, I'm going to select a tree. And when I'm done selecting my things, I push enter and it should only leave those on. So I just wanted trees and the things on that layer. So I selected one tree, one item on that layer and pushed isolate. Cool. Has everyone got that? So now we're going to go back to our paper space and we're going to plot this as well. So we're going to plot, enter, check our settings. They should be good because we did page setup, push OK. And then we're just going to name this one like EX5 trees. That's it. Great. Yeah. Gotta be careful. So a lot of you have issues with this as well. Once you make a block, the line work inside of it is on the layers you put it on, but the block itself has to be put on a correct layer as well. So if you click on a lot of your blocks, if you don't pay attention, a lot of them are sitting on a different layer, and it's something that's easy to miss or not pay attention to, but you'll run into issues when you start trying to turn on and off layers and that kind of stuff. So make sure your blocks, whenever you make them, go ahead and place, once it's done and it's grouped up together, select it and make sure it's on the correct layer. Yeah. Your which? That's another command I'm about to teach you guys as well. So if you need to change what layer all your trees are on, the most efficient way to do it is I'm going to do so lay uniso or clicking this little button here brings everything back after you're done. To get all of your trees in one selection, if they're on the wrong layer, the easiest way to do it is select one, and because they're blocks, it recognizes how similar it is to the other blocks. So if you right click and choose select similar, it will select all the things that are on the same group or have the same layer or any similarities. If it has enough similarities, they'll kind of choose them all together. So you'll see it's just trees all selected. And then you can go to your drop down and put it on the tree layer to make sure it's on the right layer. Okay. So after you have your trees, then we can go ahead and do, I think we can just do all the furnishings and stuff like that and group them up together. So we're going to use layer isolate again. Okay. You can use the button or type it. And we're going to now choose more than one item before pushing enter. So we want to keep all our furnishings on, right? And then we want to keep our overhead structure, pergola, whatever. We want to keep that as well. Hi, Jess.
Hi. So I have this question. They go to lay ISO the tree and everything disappears and the tree is on its own layer.
Is the items inside the block also on the tree layer?
Good question.
So once you select these two items,
Yes.
is that it is on tree as well?
Correct.
let's skip tree for that one and I can help you out in a sec. Does that work? Okay, so once you've selected the overhead structure and the furnishing, push enter. So now it isolated. And if you check out the way your layers property looks, once you've done a command like this, you'll see all the little light bulbs off and then only the ones are on for the ones that you selected things for. Okay, so now we have those on. I'm going to go to my paper space and I'm going to do plot. Enter. Check my stuff out. Looks good. Push OK. EX5. And we're just going to put like furnishing or something. Oh, cool. I didn't put fountain on the right layer. Even my, yes, include the fountain in that. My layer management was poor, apparently. That's cool. So I'm going to try that again. So I did unisolate. I'm going to choose both of these items, and then I'm going to go choose the stinking fountain to make sure it comes on. There it is. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and do, I will show what the benefits of that in a second. Okay, so those are going to be the three that we make. Okay, so you did plot for trees, plot for the base, and plot for all the other little accessories on the top. So everyone generally got that? Got it down? Any issues? Okay, just so the bench that was like a seat wall, like built kind of deal. So we suggested it going on the wall layer. I didn't, for the most part, that didn't really contribute to y'all's point deductions when you did the plan, by the way, because we understood that it wasn't like, not a lot of y'all picked it up. If it was on furnishing, it wasn't too big of a deal, but we left notes for all of you. But so if that wasn't turned on, it's probably best to turn it on for your base layer because so that you have closed figures. So it would be easiest to do lay on ISO and make sure that you get your base done real quick. So freeze and turn off the things that we originally turned off. So those overhead, the furnishing. So it should look like that. And go ahead and do it with your, like those curved benches and those kind of things turned on. Because it's best to have like closed figures. If it's just this bench that you did that with, then you can do it with furnishing. These ones though, if you did it differently and separated it, then it can create like an open figure that makes it hard to do like paint bucket on Photoshop. So you want to try and have those closed areas. Does that make sense? Cool. Let's see if I have others. I'm going to go over real quick, just while we wait for upstairs for a second. The same way that we went over draw order for things, another helpful one, which I find really funny because like in the office that I worked at when I found this command, a lot of people were pissed at the amount of hours they probably wasted in their career not knowing this command. So whenever you have your hatches and you want to send those to the back, it becomes a really tedious thing to constantly have to send everything to the back. Especially if you have to select it, right click, draw order, and send it to the back all the time. In modify, there is a command that's built in, and you don't have to go here or know it, because if you just remember, the command is hatch to back. So if you type out hatch to back, it sends all your hatches automatically to the back without you having to tediously do it. So if you do it now, then you're set for later. And then all you have to do is when you add new hatches, which happens often when you have to modify the edges or boundaries of those, you just type hatch to back and it sends it all to the back. It is a very, very time-saving command. And then what's the other one? Break. A lot of you I have taught independently and showed you break, and it's just useful. So if you do BR or type break, break lets you freely break lines and segments. So this helps whenever doing things like where I mentioned before, if you do a single line for something when you're drawing more efficiently, if you want to break segments of it, you can do break, click a spot, and then snap to a spot. And you'll see there's a break in that line, that continuous line. And I can use extend to make that line extend back to it. So now I've got two separate segments instead of one big segment. So those are two helpful commands to make things a little more efficient for you and help editing. Jess, are you at a good spot? Jess? Oh, there we go.
Sorry, I've been answering questions and not listening.
You're good. And so do you still have questions up there?
I have a couple, they're largely based on viewports being put on a layer that is frozen.
Cool. I'll go over something related to that real quick, just to, so I realized whenever we went over viewports, I didn't review this part. It's something I kind of left behind, but your viewport itself, the line work of it ends up on a layer. So currently, like you can see, mine is mindlessly on the wall layer. So often people make a viewport layer. And then if you go into your layers properties, there is a no plot. It helps to separate it from other line work so that you can freeze things without accidentally freezing your viewport, but also you can set it to be a no plot layer. So you can have that if you've got a lot of viewports set up on a screen. Like for instance, this layout I had, so if it was like this, and I didn't want these, if I didn't make like a nice clean viewport and I didn't want the lines of that viewport plotting, then I would set it on a no plot layer, and then it would never show up every single time I print. I don't have to freeze it. I don't have to care what it looks like. It would never show up anyways. So key thing for you guys is make sure that this is put either on 0 for you guys, or a no plot or a viewport layer, something along those lines. Okay. Next step is going to be opening up Photoshop. So if you haven't already, it might make you log into your Penn State stuff, which is really annoying. And then we're going to create a new document. The key is to make sure it's the exact same size as the paper that we already had it at. And then it makes sure that we are not scaling it on this paper, so that we also know it's still at 1 to 10, hopefully, if you haven't changed your viewport or anything like that. So I'm going to change this to be inches over here, and then it's going to say 11 by 17. Well, resolution is outlandish. We're going to drop it down to 200. There's no reason for 300. It's not really visible to the human eye on 11 by 17. Okay. Everyone good? When you're good, push create. Okay. So the next important thing is that all of these layers, rather than a lot of the time, like when I was in school, I like mindlessly brought in files into Photoshop and just had them be like raster, or I didn't really care what they looked like. And I just got them in there, but then it made it to where when things like the discussion about like the fountain, I forgot the fountain whenever I exported. So now my PDF for furnishing doesn't have the fountain, and I purposely left it with that mistake. Because I'll show you the benefit of doing it a really nice, effective way in Photoshop, so that you can constantly make mistakes and fix them without it really like being a chore to fix it. So you're gonna make sure that you have your layers panel. The resolution of this screen is messy, so it's gonna be difficult to see. There we go. So you want to make sure that you can see your layers panel. That's the most important thing that we need for this process. And then you're going to file and place linked. You can also physically grab the things from the File Explorer and drag into Photoshop if you wanted to. This is just 2 different ways here. And I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to choose. It's not going to let me. That's rude. Cool. We're going to do one at a time, I guess. So you're going to select your base, push place. We're going to do, normally bounding box can be fine, but to be safe, if you do media box, it makes sure that it's the size of the page and not the size of the object, so it doesn't shrink it. This allows the file to come in and sit squarely, perfectly in your sheet and never move, so that every time you stack other things, they stack and align with each other because they're aligning to a page edge instead of the objects inside that page. So media box, okay. Once you've placed it, It should automatically, it should say 100% at the top. It shouldn't scale itself. And you should push the check. You're done. Okay. Now, if you see over on the far hand, right, there's a little link on top of the preview of the image. That means it is linking the same way as InDesign or XRefs in AutoCAD. It is linking to that file. So if you change that file, then it will automatically update in Photoshop. So we're going to do place linked again. We're going to get all 3 files in there. So furnishing, place. I'm going to choose media box. Okay. And it's 100%. And I push check. And I'm going to do it again. File, place link, trees, place, media box. Okay. Check it's 100 and check mark. Okay. So file, place linked, select your file, push OK. Choose media box.
Further layout from last one. Before. Single. Okay. And then you're going to type 0, 0. Get it in the corner. Stop. 11, 17. And then select it. Select it. And then this is what it says. So this still is right around. Yes, it is perfect. Double click in here. Then double click your scroll wheel. At least the base, and then we can patch it. So just get the base out. Leave it last. Yeah. Yes, it looks like you needed to turn off that. Make sure that you have frozen the XREF. Whenever, even though you don't see it, the boundaries for it are there. What are your issues? Oh, that. Let's see. It frees everything. Okay, so on this one, you needed to freeze the sections, the tree. Oh, there's the trees on this one. You needed to freeze the sections and the furnishing and the text. So in AutoCAD. So freeze. Shoot a little freeze guy. Nope. Escape. That's not freeze. Snowflake freeze. Click sections. Click your hatches. One of your hatches text. Furnishing. Overhead structure. Click trees. Yeah. Perfect. Now go and plot that. And that will be your new base. Yeah, so go to your layout. Type in plot. Plot. Enter. Correct. Okay. You're gonna save that as your new base one. Save it with the same name wherever it is. That one. You can just click it down. Save. Make sure it's closed. Close whichever file it is. Okay. Go select this. Yes. So let's go link that one. So go to Photoshop. Right click on this. Actually, just click on it quickly. Just a little trash there. Actually, never mind. I just realized. If you click on this. You see how it edited it without having to really, like, you didn't have to put it back in because you saved over the same file name. So it automatically knew. So turn these two on. There we go. Everyone else good? Any issues?
Cool. Okay. So all the line work that you should have in there should only be the stuff that's like relevant for like drafting and making it pretty and rendering it, not like text and hatches. Sometimes if you want the hatch to be in there and overlaid, I export hatches on their own, just like trees all by themselves, and I'll sit the pattern on top of stuff depending on what I'm doing. So then let's see, place link, navigate to PDF. So next I'm going to show you how to relink things. So I'm going to do that by showing you my screw up where I didn't have the fountain. So fountain's missing, right? I'm going to go to AutoCAD, and this will help if any of you realize you have missed something or messed something up in the process of exporting and it doesn't look the same as this one. So if you look at the things that are there, if it doesn't look like this, then you can follow this process to fix what your PDFs look like. So I need my furnishings to include this little fountain. So I'm going to do isolate, layer isolate, and I'm going to make sure that the fountain's included, the overhead structure, and all my furnishings. That's the one that I messed up. So one of each of those things I clicked and I push OK. So now those things are isolated correctly. When I go to my paper space and choose plot and say OK, I'm going to now save over the original file. I need to make sure it's closed. Furnishing, that one's closed. I'm going to save over it with the exact same name. The important part is it's in the same spot with the same name, just like InDesign, just like AutoCAD's XRefs. It needs to know where to find it. So I say save. Yeah, I want to overwrite it. Now I've got my fountain there. I'm going to go to Photoshop and I'm going to turn off my trees so you can watch, but you can see the fountain's there. I didn't have to do anything because it's a linked file. And it's exactly where it's supposed to be because we use that media box to sit it exactly on the same spot as everything else. It doesn't shift or move. And if it doesn't do it on its own, if you double click on the little link, it should upload it and refresh it. I think you can also right click and it says relink to file. So you can go follow and link it to a new file if you've lost the location of it. And then update all modified is that refresh for you. So if it's in the same spot and everything, you're good, push this one. And then if you can't find it or it's not linked or you're on a different computer, you do the relink to file and go find it the same way you would with an XREF. You go back and tell it where to look for it. Okay. Then the next thing is, I don't know, have y'all learned, I'm assuming you might have learned the live paint from Alec. Has anyone learned that one? No? Okay, that's his, like, I think that's one of his like preferred methods of filling in. I like using a magic wand. Have y'all learned that at all? A magic wand. So I'm going to go over that one real quick. So I'm going to turn off my trees and my furnishing layers. So I'm just looking at the things I want to look at. And then I'm going to make a couple of layers over on the side for the colors that I plan or the things that I'm going to fill in. So I'm going to make one that's gravel. Caps lock is apparently gravel. I'm going to make one that's trees. And just put a couple filler ones in here that you know you're going to need. So one. Put them with each other so that this is organized. I also like to sit these in groups. So I'm gonna hide these away in a little folder. So we'll start with those, it should be enough. So what you do is you select the layer that you know the boundaries are on, so the base, I'm gonna select that one. And then I'm gonna do my magic wand, which is behind this camera. It's hidden under this one. Where is it? This one. Okay, so it's the fourth one down in your little quick menu. If you can't find it, type W. And it'll highlight it for you. W is the shorthand, but it also has a couple other fancy selection tools in there. We're going to choose the magic wand one. So if it's not already set to that, right click on here, choose magic wand.
How do you do the layers? Sorry.
The layers. I'm skipping past rudimentary stuff. That's my problem there. I got too quick. So it's just a little plus sign down here. And then if you click on the layer just once or twice, then you change the name of it. Cool. You can also group them by, if you select any group of them and click the little folder, it makes the group of them. That's just a personal preference. You don't have to do that. So magic wand, then I'm going to choose base. Magic wand basically selects any of the same color for whatever period of time. They've changed the way this feature works, so there's new features to it that are fancy and scary. So this number doesn't matter for what we're doing right now. The most important thing is literally that it's the magic wand, and then we just select an area. So the first thing I want to color is, let's do lawn. So this is lawn, so I click in that region and it highlights it because I have the magic wand turned on. I'm going to zoom in. If you hold Alt and then scroll, it zooms for you, so you don't have to use the other keys. It's way faster than using your what is it, Control and plus or minus or whatever the other alternative is. And then I'm going to click in here. Those were lawn. Ooh, I need to make sure this little feature is the added selection. So if you look at the top, the second one over lets you keep selecting more instead of a new selection each time, so that I can have a compounding selection. So I'm going to go back and select that again. So make sure you've got that second one so that you can compound select things. Some of you will realize that your line work has gaps in it by doing this feature. It will be your horrible realization that you haven't used snaps properly. And that's okay for this. I'm not judging that stuff, but it does give you a nice reality check on what you need to fix and work on for your plans. So there's that, and then there's lawn here and lawn here. I've got all the lawn areas selected, and then I'm going to go to the lawn layer. I'm going to choose a color, some variation of green, and there's a billion different ways you could fill this in. I have short keys for it that you'll probably not remember, so we're going to do it the longer method so it's easier to remember. Edit, fill, and then we're going to choose the foreground color, which is this color in the first box that I've already selected, and push OK. And it fills it. That is an ugly shade of green. I'm going to do this again with the different area, so you'll be able to keep up if you didn't get all of that. So the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my base. I'm going to do wand, which is W. It'll remember which one you've got selected. W gets you to wand. I'm going to choose my base again, and then I'm going to go, okay, I want my vegetated areas. So this area, that area, this area, that one, that one, that one. There's a lot of little areas. All of that is your vegetated area. You can see it probably would have been wise to turn off my fence, but it doesn't really matter for this. You'll learn which things are most effective to have on and off as needed. Okay, so I've got all of my vegetated area selected. So now I'm going to scroll to the vegetation layer. I'm going to go choose whatever color I want for that one. So say I want it to be darker. And then I'm going to make sure I'm on that vegetation layer again. Yep. Edit, fill, foreground color. Okay. Now it's filled. Control D lets you deselect things, by the way. It's a nice shorthand. Okay. I'm going to do it again. Base. And you do not have to have it look exactly like this. It's just practicing and getting a hold of it. So I'm going to keep going through it. I'm going to fill it out real quick. So follow the step before panicking, and follow it once all the way through. See if you can get a hold of it, and then I can help you out with questions as we go. Cool. So we're going to do one more where I'm going to do like pavement. So I go on the base, I do W, and I click that magic wand W, or click the magic wand, take your pick. And I'm gonna click in all the regions, make sure that second one is clicked. And click all the regions that pavement should be. You'll notice you can't do that for this because it selects your whole page because it's not enclosed. So some things, whenever you know you have to render a plan, you're gonna have to go close things with polylines and stuff so that you can render things fully out. So pavement, click this one and that one and this, that, oop, this, that. That's pavement. The other stuff's gravel, I think. Yep. Okay, so I selected all my pavement. I'm going to click the pavement layer. Then I'm going to go to color, wherever that is in your stuff. And I'm going to go choose some random color, some tan beigey color or something, whatever. It doesn't matter what you choose. And then I'm going to go to edit, fill, and then foreground color needs to be selected, which okay. It should fill it. I mean, she didn't select anything prior to doing the fill. Additionally, so if you made something accidentally, like the wrong color or something that you wanted to change, you can select everything on a layer. So if you've already filled it, but it's not the color you want to be, like say lawn, for instance, I want it to be a different color. If I hold Control and click on this image, this preview, it selects everything on that layer so that you can recolor it if you wanted it to. So I can go choose a new color after that and do fill and say foreground color, and I can change the color of it. So you just hold Control and click this preview to select things on layers, just like that. Okay. So this makes it really easy to be able to slap colors down, add patterns and that kind of stuff, and it makes it to where you can do everything within boundaries. I am going to do, if you got the hang of it, I might place, I'm going to place my furnishings on the top and my trees on the top. If you got the hang of it, go ahead and maybe try this with your trees as well. So instead you select the trees and you do your magic wand and only choose in those and then fill a color for trees, that kind of stuff. I'm going to answer questions.
Yeah, you selected the entire page. Control D. So we need to go magic wand. We need to make sure you're on the correct layer. Yep. So now you start selecting things. You can't select the line. You have to select the area. Control D. There we go. See? Yeah. There we go. Out. And once you have everything selected, click there. Yeah, that one. Oh. So then go to vegetation or lawn layer, right? And you have a green selected, so you can edit. It needs to be foreground color, which is the first box, basically, is what it's saying. Okay. Okay. So then try it again with a couple other ones. Yeah, so you can write for time. Also, it helps me out with hatches for the other stuff that happens to impact the area. You could probably do this one. Yeah. That area when you choose it here, it'll see those lines, the hatches. Yeah. So if you see this little dash line all the way around, and you have that whole thing selected. So we control these stuff. And click the area you want. You have to get on the layer with the outlines to use magic wand. So it sees those lines as like it's like using patch almost. So click base, click the area, and it's going to that scroll. So make sure you have all the things that you want. You can go back and edit the selections. But yeah, so you select the color after you've gotten everything selected. Great. Now go to the layer you want the color to be on. And then you go to the edits. Help. And make sure this one's a foreground color. Oh, so now you can go through and go back to base. You can Control D, you select your stuff. And then you go to your base. See, now you can go to all the stuff and go place it on there. Sorry, that's. You know what it is? It's this, that two property line is open and there's an open gap there. Yeah, it's, can't see from here.
Oh.
Yeah. This gap, that's open. So I like to do that. So once you've selected, then you go yes, and then edit. Looks like you changed both your foreground and your background. Okay, so do control D so you can select this up and go to your face. And move on. You haven't connected this time, so there's a thing there. Oh, so you have to replot it. So, yeah, so you're gonna have to go turn off the layers again, that you needed to turn off. And then go to your layout plot and see what was the original. Oh, okay, thank you. Good. Okay. So don't select the lines within there. Oh, okay. So it's gotta have a gap, is what it is, in there for me.
Is there another? Oh. Okay. Scroll.
Oh.
Oh, we got some great as well. Good.
Layers. Base coat. Depends on, I guess. Oh, yeah. Oh. That is all they will be front. Oh, okay. So where you plot instead of having two of these, just go like, so you don't need this. So go in and make sure. You'll go turn.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's- I mean, like,
Okay, wait, I might not be. But I put this on.
oh, okay, so, those are your joints, that's why they would be like there. Then you'll plot it. That, you save it over this, whatever that file is. Okay, save that one and go refresh the question. Oh, okay. Yes, any other questions? hold control and select the preview, and it selects everything, and then you can choose a new color and do fill again.
Right, thank you. I did it by my line work is drawn that way in the first place, so my line is drawn like that. In theory, so yes, you can do it this way. You can use other selections. It's fun. No, you can't because unless you go and change it. You can go and change it if you want to, but you don't need to for this, like, for the exercise to figure it out. So, for this, it doesn't matter out here. Point is that you're learning how to put it in Photoshop and find the right way out here. That's right in the first place. I'm not gonna take a consequence. Instead of having an assignment for this week, it's gonna be a work on editing things. So I circled practical locations when I find my work doesn't match up. So I help you attempt to find those things. Probably more than what I told. But so you'll get.
Like, so if we put shift, you go in that.
So you need to be on your.
And it's shift, and so I can
D.
go
And go to your tree layer, not that one, the one
in
that's.
here.
It's
So if you
like, you
like,
gotta have line work to follow, so then you go inside tree. And then you click on the tree layer that you want to build things in.
like people shift and like this. And that, and
So you click on the layer you want to add.
no, they will not.
Build. Foreground color.
Oh. That's not, but. It's like that. Then when you start these. And I'll ask you when you say. You have to X it out of it. That's all, and then, so, that's, oh, yeah. We did it, sorry. So,
From here, here, one nice clean line.
oh, no, when you put the tree back.
Just froze those things.
Put the trees like above it.
Now.
Yeah. I don't know that.
I can see it over your face.
Like the measurement.
Okay, yeah, so if you go into your AutoCAD. Okay, so put it on the right line, yeah, the layer, and then, so put it on the front layer. Okay, so then isolate the user three, some turn on the whole thing, you can turn on the base. Quick hatches, anything on the hatch layer? Great. Okay, start here. go to your, okay, enter your layout, you want that saved over your base file, same name. Nope, you don't. Watch. Left. Okay. Click that. Okay, save. Want to keep it the same name so that it's automatically. There it is. And I can do it, so. Yeah, so now you have to find it. Oh. Yeah, so let me do this. So the deliverables for this turn in are gonna be a JPEG and a PSD, so a Photoshop file and a JPEG. To save one of those, you just do File, Save as Copy is how you're gonna get your JPEG. So you have to do this little drop down here and make sure it's a JPEG, save it the correct name. So you'll do a Save as Copy is how you get the JPEG out of this. Okay. Do it again, File, Save as Copy. It's really dumb and puts it in a different location than saving other things, which is silly. You do the little drop down for what type you'd like to save it as a JPEG, name it, save it, okay? Then to save the PSD, the Photoshop file, you're gonna do save as, a regular one, and go save it as that PSD, okay? But both of those files are what you're submitting. You're submitting the Photoshop file itself and a JPEG of this, okay? And that is your exercise. I am going to go over a couple more things related to your assignment. Is it 3 now? Your site plan that you've got back. I'm going to open up Canvas, show you where the notes are again to make sure that you have them. We went through and meticulously noted up your AutoCAD file, not your screenshots, your AutoCAD file. So we have filled them all in and directly did it on the file for you. Do not use the file that we gave you as the file that you start making corrections in, okay? We have manipulated things, we've pushed things around. We are not responsible for what got lost in that file. You use your copy of your site plan AutoCAD file and then reference the notes that we provided on the AutoCAD file that we gave you, okay? So do not work in that one, especially if you've done progress on your plan since turning in, do not work on the one that we gave you notes for. So I am going to go, and I wonder if can I do student view and see if it works. Assignments. I don't know how to do this without showing grades, so this will be fun.
already. I'm gonna show you via one of my old classes instead for that. Let's see. Okay, so whenever you go and look at your assignment, when you get to this page, you want to find the comments that we left. We left it in a comment because that's the only spot we can attach a file for you to give it to you. We attached, there should be a note that says all the things that we highlighted. So we went in and like, anytime I found a spot where like your line work is just not matching up, it's not nice, even snaps weren't there. Or if a line is not straight up and down and I drew a line, things like that, they're all magenta dashed lines. I did not catch every instance because that would take me a really long time, but I went through and meticulously found a lot of those things so that you knew where some of those little glitches and hiccups are. The same thing for anything related to the other things that we graded. We didn't catch absolutely everything, but the notes are there. So make sure that you go to comments, okay? And you actually get that downloaded and look at those comments and start revising your site plan, okay? That's a horrible noise. So you want to get those in. We don't have a deadline for this right now. So I understand that y'all have a workload. You've got studio, you've got things piling on, and we totally understand that. We're giving you as much time in this class to sit down and do these things so that you get the skills in, you get used to these things. It will benefit you a lot later. And we're giving you lots of time to make sure that you get all the points that you can humanly possible. Let me go over to our notes file. There's a couple of you that didn't know the difference between when a line is like whether or not to draw a single line or to draw like the gap of the width of a line. I don't know if that makes sense in some instances. Most of you, if your line work, if you did that gap, you're not gonna, I know there's like one person that was trying to like chaotically have to fix all of that. Don't worry about that. It's not going to teach you anything if we sit there and go, yeah, you have to fix all of those little gaps that you purposely made in the first place. But if those gaps are uneven and they like shrink and none of your lines were straight, that's when the gaps matter. So for those of you that did draw to accommodate a width of a line on either, you drew a line on either side of a line, just know that you don't have to go correcting that type of thing. It's whenever your gaps are irregular, you didn't use offset or copy or things like that. Then let's see. If you used my trick for taking layers or lines from the line type file and copied them into your file to make a bunch of base layers that don't match up with the layers that you needed, you need to be responsible for deleting all of those layers. Likely you could have lost points for leaving in a bunch of unused, messy named layers. So there's consequences to the trick, and you have to be responsible for those consequences. So yeah, don't change the properties of the line. We went over that stuff. I'm gonna go through the stuff on the plan just to, most of y'all have notes for this stuff. Fountain goes on furnishing. This is an overhead structure, so it goes on structure. The building goes on a footprint. The reason why it has A at the beginning is for architecture. This is not exactly what it looks like in Big Kid Land, but it's generally how it works. It's L is for landscape, A is in the beginning. It's a general standard. So all of the architecture stuff goes on the A footprint layer. Doors were kind of loose and fast on what layer those go on. As long as they were on something, either architecture or on the fence for the fence one, that's chill. Another thing that wasn't as commonly known is the joints, the cracks of pavement. So if there's one big pavement area, pavement is the line on the outside, joints is the one that goes in between. So those are those control, I can't remember what the name of the layer is that was expected for your assignment, but it has joints in it. Those are joints. These are seat walls, this one, that one, and this one. Those three are seat walls. They go on L wall. They're built, they're not like seats and little like furniture like furnishings are. Let's see, joints. Don't break lines for text. Use text masks. If you don't remember how to do a text mask or the text background, ask and we will help you out with that. And don't delete your XREFs. A lot of y'all are deleting them. If you open your XREF and right click on them, you can unload them or you can turn off the layer that they're on. Do not delete them. It defeats the purpose of having a reference thing in there, especially if you like wanted the same thing as the Photoshop files. If you wanted to fix something and update that JPEG, then it's not sitting where it belongs anymore. You have to do all the work again and it's silly. So it's a bad habit to go deleting XREFs like that. Okay. We are going to go around. So get your exercise stuff saved off, the 2 files, go save those and turn them in. We're going to go around individually and try to hop to y'all as quick as humanly possible to kind of do a status update to see if you know what your grade is in this class as a whole and if you understand where you're at, so that it's a reality check for some of you, and for some of you it doesn't matter at all. In the time being, work on your edits for your plan. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to go over a background mask real quick for anybody that needs it upstairs. Even if you take a second to look, if you don't need it, that's totally fine. Okay. So to do a background mask, you have to have a multi-line text. World's tiniest. So I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, so you select the text, okay? You need to go to your properties. So if you type properties, it needs to say M text up here if it's the right type of text. If it's not, you'll have to ask. There is a command, is TXT to MTXT, and it converts it from text to multi-line text. But if you have multi-line text, you're gonna go down, scroll down to background mask, where it says no. You're gonna click this little box. You want to say, hey, I want a background mask on this, which means it's going to black out any of the stuff behind the text so that it's readable when you print things. And then you want to say use drawing colors, background colors, which means when it prints, it's basically, it turns white like a piece of paper. In this instance, it's going to turn black because your background is black. So you click that. And then here, 1 is the smallest, which means that background is going to be like super hugging the edges of your text. I like to put a little bit of buffer so that it's obvious that line work doesn't match up with that text. So I put 1.1. It's not a perfect science here. And you push OK. Then you'll see there's a little box now around this, which means if I place it over the top of anything, it blocks out the stuff so that it's readable when you print things. When you do this, make sure that the box itself, if I double click in, this box needs to be as small as possible, not some big long box that accidentally covers up bonus stuff. So if I did like this, like that's not cute. So make sure that you have a nice clean box. If you double click in and drag this little arrow or double click on it, and it'll shorten it. Okay. Bueno.